Hello, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tech Exec podcast, where we triple your impact per engineer. As always, I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, advisor and coach to tech executives worldwide, and our subject today is a foot out the door. Before we get to that, I've got something exciting to talk about. I just announced on my newsletter a few days ago that I'm hosting a first in-person masterclass in London this July as part of a bigger 30-day coaching program. I'd love to see you there. If you're interested in details, there's a link in the show notes. And right now, we are during the early bird period, so I urge you to check it soon. If you have any questions or comments, my email will be in the show notes. And now, on to the show. I was recently talking to a CTO who is successful, after all, having co-founded a company that is now doing very well. And he has regretted the fact that for years he felt as if he was acting with a foot out the door. He wasn't on how much longer he would like to stay within the company, and he said that in hindsight, it has significantly harmed a lot of the decisions that he has made because he was always thinking too short term. And after we had a good chat about that, I did some thinking and I realized that this is something that I'm actually seeing quite a lot. It might not be as clear to you. You might not be thinking, I might be leaving in the next 6 months, so I might as well say no to this initiative because it won't be done by them. Or I'll refrain from pushing the company towards this direction because I wouldn't be here to finish it, or something like that. And even if it won't be that clear to you, if you're not sure about how long you're going to stick in your role, or this also applies to the other key hires in your organization, the problem with giving yourself a short time span is that you can see the horizon. And once we get too close to it, we stop doing our best. That's just human condition. So it's like when you're running and you can see the finish line and you start slowing down just a bit before you get there because you're already spent and you can see the end, as opposed to what is the right solution, which is to continue running as if you have another 50 more yards so that you get to the finish line in a good pace. And I see the same in decisions. I see people who stop aiming to get the best talent because deep down they feel like I might not be here enough, so it's not okay for me to get them here. Or they don't think big enough, or they shape the organization in a way that will not aim for anything great, but merely for average because they don't want to rock the boat right now as they just might be leaving. And again, some of them don't even realize that they're doing it. It's just subconsciously how they view things, how risk averse they become depending on the horizon they see for themselves. Ideally, you should not be in a role where you think, well, I'm just going to be here for 6 more months, I think, or maybe we'll see. Ideally, you should be committed to what you're doing longer. But we're operating in the real world, so what should you do about it? First, let's start by noticing this and accepting it. If you are able to spot that this is happening, then you're already better off, because that means you might be a bit more aware of it as you make certain types of decisions. Second, by the way, I'm sorry, it's really windy outside and there's a bunch of noise from my yard, so I hope you can't hear it, but I'm hearing all sorts of creaking. Anyway, second, after you become aware of it, the next step is to try and minimize its effect on you. And you can do it, for example, by not merely saying, I'm committed to staying in the company for the next 6 months, for example, and then sticking to that, because as you get to 2 months ahead of it, you stop thinking long term. So ideally what you should be doing, if you can't guarantee a long enough time span for you, is make a decision and stick to it. So if you say 6 months or a year, stop waffling about it during those 6 months or a year. But once you reach that point, or once you get close enough that you notice that you're acting as if you're already on the finish line, then immediately decide again. That means if you notice that you're 2 months away from a deadline and you're not as committed as you used to be, make a decision earlier to commit longer. And I know this might sound weird, so what I'm saying is, if you committed to a year and 2 months before the end of the year you start feeling like you're not really there, either realize that you've made a decision, even if you didn't voice it, and that is to leave or announce that you're leaving in 2 months and then act accordingly, or realize that you haven't made a decision yet, you're not sure, and make a decision with yourself to stop waffling on things and really be committed to where you are for the next at least a quarter. So even if you decide to leave in 2 months, you're going to act committed for longer. And 3, as much as you'd like to be committed to what you're doing, also consider what should you be doing to feel good about yourself, no matter which decision you're going to make. So if you can no longer make hiring effectively because you're worried you might be leaving, then maybe you should decide to leave earlier. Or if you feel like you're not thinking long-term enough, maybe you should promote someone to be your right hand, or to take some responsibility and be in charge of some innovative new approach or some initiative, so that you pass the baton and someone is actively doing that. And that actually sets up your organization to be healthier should you decide to leave. I know that this isn't a very happy subject to talk about, or something that people are eager to share. I'm guessing you're not going to share this on your LinkedIn after you realize that, yeah, I am counting my days or something like that. But nevertheless, it is something that is part of the daily lives of many tech executives. It is natural, and you should be aware of the fact that it is something that happens to everyone and that you can manage it better. And no matter if you have a foot at the door or not, I hope that you're headed in the right direction. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. If you haven't yet, do subscribe to my newsletter. It's the best newsletter online for tech executives, and the link is in the show notes. And I'm reminding you again, I'm hosting the London Leadership Leap this July. 2 days of face-to-face group work with your peers, and then 30 days of coaching by me personally one-on-one. For more details, check out the link in the show notes. And if you have any questions or comments, my email is always in the show notes as well. Thank you. Talk soon.